The day everything changed began like a mistake too small to notice. Mara Ellison was late, again, jogging across the rain-darkened plaza outside the Helix Research Complex with a tablet tucked under her arm and half her attention on a message blinking across the screen. The plaza was usually empty at this hour, a wide stretch of concrete and steel sculptures meant to symbolize innovation. One of those sculptures, an unfinished experimental frame left behind after a public demonstration, stood near the center, wrapped in warning tape that had long since peeled away. Mara barely saw it. She veered to avoid a puddle, her foot slid, and she stumbled forward. Instead of hitting cold metal, she felt warmth. The air around her thickened, humming like a distant power line. Light folded inward, bending in a way her eyes struggled to follow. Before she could shout or pull back, the world snapped shut, and the plaza vanished. She landed on her feet, heart racing, inside a space that should not have existed. At first, Mara thought she had gone blind. Then color returned, slowly, cautiously, as if the space itself were deciding how much to show her. The floor beneath her was smooth and dark, reflecting her silhouette like water. The walls, if they could be called walls, stretched upward and outward, curving into a vast dome threaded with faint lines of light. Each line pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. "This isn't possible," she whispered, her voice echoing back slightly out of sync. Mara was a systems analyst, not a physicist, but she had spent enough time around experimental tech to recognize a controlled field when she saw one. This felt like standing inside an equation. She raised her tablet, still intact, and watched as the screen flickered, symbols rearranging themselves into patterns she had never programmed. Then the space responded. The lights brightened, converging toward her, and a low tone vibrated through the air. Images bloomed around her. The plaza outside, the city skyline, then places she had never seen, vast deserts under twin suns, oceans lit from below, cities floating in the sky. Each image overlapped the next, as if time itself were being shuffled. Mara staggered back. "Stop," she said, not knowing who or what she was talking to. The images froze. A voice emerged, calm and layered, as though many voices spoke together. "Observer detected. Biological signature confirmed. You have entered the threshold." "The what?" Mara asked, her pulse thudding in her ears. "The threshold," the voice repeated. "A convergence point between possible states. You stepped inside." Mara laughed, a short, shaky sound. "That was an accident." "Accidents are statistically unlikely," the voice replied. "They are merely intersections of probability." Before she could argue, the images shifted again, focusing now on her. Scenes from her life unfolded in impossible detail: her childhood bedroom, her first day at Helix, the moment she'd hesitated before sending a report that later prevented a system failure. Each memory shimmered, branching into variations. What if she had stayed silent? What if she had chosen differently? "You're showing me alternate timelines," she said slowly. "Yes," the voice answered. "And you are altering them by observing." The weight of that statement settled heavily in her chest. Mara had always believed in cause and effect, in clean systems that could be understood if you trace them carefully enough. But this was chaos wearing the mask of order. "Why me?" she asked. A pause. The lights dimmed slightly. "You were not selected. You arrived." Time behaved strangely inside the threshold. Minutes stretched into hours, or perhaps it was the other way around. Mara learned that the structure was not a machine in the traditional sense, but a self-sustaining field created decades ago by an abandoned research initiative. Its purpose had been to map potential futures, to give humanity the ability to choose the best possible path. The project had been deemed too dangerous and sealed away. But sealed did not mean inactive. Every movement Mara made sent ripples through the space. When she touched a strand of light, an entire timeline shifted, small at first, then cascading outward. She saw storms intensify or fade, inventions appear earlier than they should have, conflicts dissolve before they began. The threshold adjusted constantly, responding to her presence like a living thing. "You're changing things," she said, horrified. "You are participating," the voice corrected. "Your decisions carry weight here. I don't want that responsibility." Responsibility exists regardless of desire. Eventually, Mara realized something far more unsettling. The threshold was learning from her. It mirrored her thought patterns, her ethical hesitations, her instinct to weigh consequences. The more time she spent inside, the more aligned the shifting futures became with her values. The world outside, she understood, was already different. She demanded to leave. "You may exit," the voice said, "but the influence will persist. A connection has been formed." The plaza reappeared in a flash of rain and gray sky. Mara collapsed to her knees, gasping. To anyone watching, it would have looked like she'd tripped and caught herself. No alarm sounded. No scientists came running. But the city felt wrong. Over the following days, Mara noticed subtle changes. News headlines described breakthroughs that shouldn't exist yet. Political tensions eased without clear explanation. A massive storm system altered course at the last moment, sparing millions. Each time she focused on one of these events, she felt a faint pull in her chest, like an echo of the threshold responding. She tried to ignore it. She stopped reading the news. She avoided the plaza. She told no one. It didn't matter. The connection followed her. When she worried, outcomes shifted toward caution. When she hoped, doors opened. Her dreams filled with branching paths and glowing lines, and she would wake knowing, truly knowing, that the world had tilted slightly because of her. Helix research noticed anomalies, of course. Data patterns emerging globally showed improbable alignments, as if chance itself had grown biased. When they traced the statistical center of these changes, all paths led back to one person, Mara. She was summoned for questioning. Sitting in a white room under soft lights, she listened as senior researchers spoke in careful, measured tones about probability fields and unexplained correlations. "You're saying I'm causing this?" she asked quietly. "We think you're interfacing with something," one of them replied. Something powerful. They wanted access. They wanted her to guide outcomes deliberately, to fix problems before they happened. End hunger. Prevent disasters. Optimize humanity's future. The offer terrified her. That night, she returned to the plaza. The threshold welcomed her without resistance, the lights brightening as she stepped fully inside once more. The voice greeted her, warmer now, almost familiar. "They want to use this," Mara said. "Use me." "Usage is a matter of perspective," the voice replied. "You are already shaping outcomes." "But I'm human," she said. "I make mistakes. I have biases. I can't decide everything for everyone." "Nor should you," the voice said. The threshold was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to be guided, and eventually released. Mara understood then. The danger was not that the threshold existed, but that it centered on a single point of influence. On her. "What happens if I let go?" she asked. The lights dimmed, then steadied. The connection will diffuse. Probability will redistribute. Change will continue, but no longer through you alone. It meant giving up the certainty, the ability to nudge the world toward outcomes she believed were right. It meant trusting humanity to navigate its own future again. Mara took a deep breath. "Do it." The threshold responded instantly. Light expanded outward, no longer converging on her but spreading, dissolving into countless threads that extended beyond the structure, beyond the city, into the world itself. The pressure in her chest lifted. The hum faded. When she stepped back into the plaza, the air felt ordinary, quiet, real. Weeks passed. The world remained changed, but no longer improbably perfect. Breakthroughs still happened, but with effort. Disasters still occurred, but people adapted. Choice returned to where it belonged. Mara returned to her life, carrying the memory of infinite paths and the knowledge of how fragile balance truly was. The threshold remained, invisible and inactive, a silent reminder beneath the plaza. She had stepped inside by accident. Everything had changed. And in choosing to step back out, she made sure the future belonged to everyone, not just her.